From the Mapleview Animal Hospital studios, this is the WHTC Morning News with Gary Stevens and Peg McNichol on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And welcome back to the WHTC Morning News for this Tuesday, October the 13th. Tuesday mornings, we have the opportunity to find out what's going on in Washington with one of the two men who represent the Lakeshore on Capitol Hill, and that is U.S. House Representative Fred Upton of St. Joseph, who joins us on the other end of our Zoom connection. Fred, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning. Nice sunny day. Dries up the rain from last night. How are you doing?
Certainly nice. But first of all, I do want to get your thoughts on the situation that happened, the word that came out last Thursday of the attempt, and I call it an attempted coup. Yeah. By an overthrow of the state government. 13 people, including one from Plainwell and apparently one from Zeeland as well, as part of the statewide plot. And so far, it's a case of, hey, we might not like our government, but there are certain lines that should not be crossed. And apparently this one was crossed.
Well, never, never, never should they be crossed. We're a democracy. Elections do count, and we need to move forward from that. Thank goodness the law enforcement had the right tools. They were able to stop it before it got too far advanced, though the planning certainly appears to be quite evident. I can't imagine it would have been successful, and what a tragic, horrific event it would have been had it happened. But it's a signal that these campaigns, life in the fast lane in politics is pretty divisive. But thank goodness it got stopped, and we had real coordination between the FBI, state, local authorities as well. And we're glad that it was obviously a very failed attempt.
But that leads to the question of, we found this one out, but how many others may have been snuffed out without any of the fanfare that we got from last week?
Well, obviously we don't know. And it was a surprise to all of us. I remember I pulled over to listen to the news Thursday afternoon at that live press conference about 1:15 on Thursday. I was up in Kalamazoo. It would have been, look, I've been around a lot of security teams in the past, whether it be with the president, the vice president, obviously the congressional leadership. I've known all of our governors. They have a detail wherever they go. I got to believe that it would have been pretty difficult for it to succeed. They've got security at their houses as well. And to think that they would actually kidnap the sitting governor, allegedly hold her for trial, have fed out some punishment without getting caught. I mean, pretty hard logistically to pull something like that off. So let's just hope this sends a signal to anyone else that's thinking about something like this, a crazy deal like that. It better stop. These lives of these folks, once they get convicted, I got to believe that they will be. You're innocent until proven guilty. But once they're convicted, we'll not be hearing from them again.
We're talking with U.S. House Representative Fred Upton. Unfortunately, the House is idle while the Senate is fiddling with a Supreme Court nomination, which means COVID-19 relief apparently won't be on the cards before November 3rd. It might come up during lame duck, but who knows?
Don't throw in the towel yet. I was on the phones yesterday. We're still moving closer to, I hope, a bipartisan agreement that the president can support. A lot of discussions over the weekend, a lot of different comments. I heard from Larry Kudlow and Secretary Mnuchin. Larry Kudlow, of course, being the economic advisor to the president. A lot of discussions that are going on. But I got to tell you, and we talked about this, I think, last week, we can't wait till after the election. It would be weeks before something would come together in a lame duck session. And we've got the end of the fiscal year. Remember, we punted on the continuing resolution, which expires early December. But as I'm talking to a lot of small businesses, and I did a Zoom call last week with SBAM, Small Business Association of Michigan. I don't know how many, could have been thousands of small businesses on that line. But you think about your restaurants that are really struggling and they don't anticipate to be getting out of the woods until next year. You talk to the hotel industry. I talked to the CEO of United Airlines last week. The airline industry is getting pummeled. Ridership is down. They're laying off tens of thousands of workers. Who knows when they're going to come back? Those airlines, of course, have to be recertified before they're put up into the air. Has a ripple effect with our smaller airports, whether it be a Kalamazoo or even a Grand Rapids or a South Bend. We can't wait. Just because an election is coming up doesn't mean we go home and campaign. So a lot of discussions over the weekend. I'm hoping still that we can see some type of framework agreed to perhaps by the end of the week. Senate would have to go first. Remember, they failed to pass any type of bill, but Larry Kudlow said he expected that the Senate could push it through, which would then allow us in the House. They would jam us, but that's okay if we get a package that really makes sense that the president can sign. So what would it include? Well, as I listened to your newscast a little bit earlier, look at the additional burdens on our schools. We've got a number of schools now that are out. They've got to do additional resources, whether it be contact tracing, a whole number of different things. Let's look at our small communities. I did, again, a Zoom call last week with a number of our municipalities. A lot more costs, less revenue. The sales tax revenue, the gas tax revenue isn't anywhere as it was anticipated from a year ago. That's for sure. They're going to be facing some very tough budget decisions in the next couple of months as they put together those budgets. So let's take a look at that. Stimulus checks. This wasn't over at Easter. And for folks who have rent payments or mortgages, school loans, utility bills, all those different things, maybe without a job, unemployment is still, at least 3 times what it was a year ago. There are real needs out there that we need to come together on in a bipartisan way. So don't throw the towel in yet. We'll see where we are about a week from now. But if for some reason we punted this until after the election, it may not be until next year that we actually come to an agreement that could get through. So I worked through the weekend, worked yesterday, federal holiday, talking to a lot of folks. We're getting closer. Some would say inches, but we're getting closer, and we'll see where things are by the end of the week.
Now, there's, of course, some budget things that still need to be taken care of. Obviously, you mentioned about the continuing resolution, but dealing with Great Lakes resources, something you've been advocating for a little while.
Well, that's right. It looks as though we're going to get funding for the Brandon Lock project down in Illinois. This is the last spot where the Asian carp, actually where we can stop them from getting into the Great Lakes and impacting a multi-billion-dollar tourism and fishing industry. People know what the Asian carp can do. Eat 40% of their weight literally every day. I was one of the leaders in our bipartisan delegation that went down there, and we had both of our senators, a number of Republicans and Democrats from Michigan to actually look at that site. Some good news. It looks like we're going to have the money to actually develop that into a blockage for the Asian carp coming north. But the Great Lakes Initiative, which includes money to fight the Asian carp, it's fully funded and then some in terms of what we're going to be able to get when the fiscal year is finally complete in terms of the funding resolution, and something that is a member of the Great Lakes Caucus, bipartisan caucus. Bill Huizenga is one of the co-chairs for it, but we're working shoulder to shoulder to make sure that money is going to be there. And we had a major success, of course, when we got funding for it every year. But you'll remember the first couple of years of the Trump budget, he zeroed the money out. We convinced him that it needed to be in the budget. And in fact, we're going to get an increase, which is good news for all of the Great Lakes states.
It certainly will be good for not only Michigan, but again, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, and all the other Great Lakes states, Ohio, New York as well, a little bit further downstream on the Great Lakes. Fred Upton joins us on Tuesday mornings, talk about some of the issues of the day. Fred, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. And if all goes well, let's do this again next Tuesday morning.
I look forward to it.
Thank you very much, Fred Upton on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.